What is good, guys? It's Rey-Jay back with another video, and in this one we're going to break down what's going on with Tesla stock, SPY, Nvda, the QQQ, and many tickers out there. I'm going to talk about what the news is saying about the markets and what you should be watching for going into today. Levels are going to be very important, and what the data is suggesting about the economy right now. But before I do anything like this, let me just mention a couple of things. Firstly, I am not a financial planner. Make sure you take none of this as financial advice. And don't forget about the Moomoo link. The offer ends very soon. If you deposit $100, you're guaranteed 5 free stocks with a $100 cash reward. Now, friends, in one day, so check it out before they run out. With that out of the way, let's get on with the video. All right, looking at the market, we're seeing SPY up in the pre-market up about 0.24%. It's about to gap up, and overall, it is showing some strength. But the real question is this going to be a gap and go, or is the market going to gap and then come down to fill the gap? That's going to depend on a lot of factors, but so far, the market's showing some strength in the pre-market. Now, that's despite the fact that Jerome Powell came out. He was saying some more hawkish things. He said that the Fed is most likely going to have to tighten financial rules after the US bank failures. He said that there's a lot of work to do to fight inflation. And he kept on going on about the same things he mentioned earlier, being very, very hawkish. Now, before the market would sell off a bit, the market did actually gap down in the pre-market. It slowed down a little bit, but then it started pumping as time went on. And this was after Powell was done. And that was approaching these big data releases. As the data came out, the market's been holding up since and started pumping after it came out just temporarily. Now, when we look at the numbers, we can see right over here, the GDP was actually about 4.1%. This is the GDP price index quarter over quarter, 4.1% versus the forecast of 4.2%. The growth rate was about 2% versus the forecast of 1.3%. This is once again showing us that the GDP growth rate, and etc., were actually a little bit stronger than expected. And then on top of this, when it comes to initial jobless claims, this was only 239,000. The forecast was 266,000, so lower than expected, meaning that the unemployment sector is still not looking insanely strong, and employment is still looking pretty decent for now, at least going over the last week. So far, the overall economy is still showing some strength. It's not extremely weak right now. And the US stock market may have a positive reaction to this because of the fact that it's fueling the narrative of a soft landing, which was what Powell and many other central bankers were talking about. Now, on top of all of this, the news is coming out right over here that the Dow futures have gained 100 points as bank and tech shares advance. The market is once again still showing some strength right now, and we are still holding up quite nicely. So we're going to be watching how this ends up accumulating over time. So now let's look at the technicals, what's going on with the charts. So looking at SPY, we could quite clearly see that we had this, this really, really nice run up. And after this run up continued for quite a while, the market sold off a bit. And now we're getting this really, really nice bounce. Right off the bat, you can notice this is looking like an inverse head and shoulders like structure that's starting to play out, and the market's gaining more strength as it continues to push. We also have this unfilled gap around this 439 area. And we could see SPY trying to make its way up there if it breaks above the 438 resistance. And you can see right here, we're actually just below it right now. We're currently in the low 437s, and the market's showing some strength. Now, for today, okay, the market is most likely going to be gapping up. When the market gaps up on SPY, here's what you're going to be watching. Go on the 5-minute time frame, watch the 15 to 200 EMAs. They're right below where SPY is, and they're going to be acting as support. So our gap is going to start right here at this like 435 level. If we break below this 437 point, what is this, 437.39 area, that's the 50 EMA, then we're going to have some potential to come down to the next important level, which is 436.5, which is where the 200 EMA is if we get a clean break below that one. And that's very close to where the gap is. The gap is going to be all the way down to like the 435s. So I mean, if it breaks below the 200, there's a chance that could happen. So watch that carefully. But if we manage to hold this range, if we hold above like 437 or so and we start pumping again, watch 438 as resistance. If we break above 438 and we manage to hold above that, we have the potential to fly quite nicely to these higher levels. So you can see it right over here, 438. If we break 438, we have the potential to go all the way up to 440. We have a gap that's unfilled in the 439s. We could fill that gap and start pumping all the way up there. And if we break 440, 442 is going to be the next important level. So it's just a matter of time to see how the market responds at this point. We are looking bullish in the pre-market, but it's not a guarantee because the pre-market, once again, does not determine what's going to happen once the market opens, as volume could change. But so far, as futures pumped and sentiment is looking quite nice, there's a good chance that The market's not going to tank insanely hard. The market's going to hold up, and it's going to likely try to continue pushing. So watch these levels very carefully. Be unbiased, and I want the best for everyone. For Tesla, this is also trying to gap up a bit. Tesla closed yesterday around like 256 and is currently at about 259. So it's not a massive gap. If Tesla does break down, hypothetically, you're going to be watching support at 257.5. If that fails us, watch 256.85, and then our gap all the way down to like 255. Now, those are going to be supports to watch for. Even if Tesla comes down, it could bounce. But if Tesla tries to continue pushing, okay, you have to watch 260. 260 is a huge level on Tesla. We have quite a bit of resistance up here in between 260 and like the very low 260s. Tesla got rejected off 261.5 in the pre-market. So watch resistance up here for Tesla. It needs to break and hold 260. If it manages to do that, if it breaks above 261.45, I'm sorry, 261.5, if anything. If it breaks that, watch 262.5. Break that, and this thing is going to fly, in my opinion, to 266 because there's an unfilled gap over there. And then we have another like important range of levels. But for now, Tesla's holding up. I didn't see too much news that came out involving it today in the morning, but we did get some positive news yesterday, and Tesla's gaining strength, especially as we approach the big deliveries date for Friday. There's a good chance Tesla's going to make its way up to at least 266, if not 270. For now, it's looking very nice. It's still holding quite nicely, trying to fight 260. Watch that resistance. That's going to be the most important level for Tesla. AMD is also trying to bounce right now. Looks quite decent. If you look at the 30 minutes time frame, it's technically above the 200 EMA. If it breaks below it, it's actually just barely testing it. If it breaks below it, watch 110, 108, 105 after that. If this thing manages to hold above this level or gets very close to bouncing off the 200, the next resistance is going to be closer to this, like, we have some at 113, but then 115 is going to be the next level. It has the potential to bounce if it holds. It is showing some strength right now. I just wanted to note that. NEO is down just a little bit. You're going to be watching support at 9.21. If that fails us, watch 9.06, $9, and then even 8.8. If it starts pushing up, watch resistance at around 9.5. If it breaks that, there's also this unfilled gap, or like this gap that's close by. The gap resistance is what I'm talking about. This 9.5 area. After that comes 9.7. For the QQQ, if this thing, remains bullish, it's going to be fighting 366. Break the 366 range, and we're going to see 368 and 370. If it breaks down, watch 365 as support. Then there's 364.25 after that, 363 after that. And then if it breaks below that, so we're going to be watching the lower 360s coming all the way down to like 361 and 360 flat. And if that fails us, there's 357.5. But I don't really see it dropping that hard. There's this gap right over here. It's not that huge though. I mean, we're actually very close to where this gap is on the bottom. So it might try to bounce off like 364 or so. It's currently around the 364.25 area. So watch that carefully. Watch these levels carefully. We will see what happens by the time we open. And so far the market has some strength. So hopefully it does get pumped by Tesla. Nasdaq may get pumped by Tesla too. And also by the Aapls out there. So we'll just have to wait and see. Aapl is also green in the pre-market. If it comes down, we have a major support at 188.81, 188.5, 187.5, and then like the 186.5 area. But if it tries to keep going, because we have a potential bullish triangle-like structure that's developing, it could be trying to push above 190 very soon. This is looking like a bullish triangle. It's a possibility. If this plays out, okay, if this really does play out, if Aapl breaks this 190 resistance, we could see this thing get very close to 192. If that happens, that's going to pump the QQQ and SPY. So we're going to be watching Aapl. Can Aapl break 190? That's the major resistance it's fighting. If it does, that could pump the market a lot more. Last but not least, before I end the video, because I want to keep this one kind of short, not make this too long, Nvda is currently still stuck between the 50 and the 200 on the 30-minute time frame. If it breaks 416, watch this thing get closer to 421 to 420. If it breaks that, watch 425 and then 430. We're going to have to wait and see if it could break it. So far, it's still sandwiched. It's still stuck. It's still very tight. If it breaks below 412, this is our support at the 50. It's going to come all the way down to potentially 408 now. And if that fails us, watch it come down to about basically this previous support at like 407, 408 to 407. Then after that comes like 400 to 401, and then 396. So watch those levels on the video. And with that said, I just want to thank everyone so much for listening. All right, so get ready for the trading day. Watch the market carefully. Do what you have to do, and I'll most definitely see you guys very, very soon in the next video. Thank you so much for listening. Market to the moon. Long term is very bright, and peace out.